My name is Amanda, and I am 32 years old. I built a $22 million business from absolutely nothing but my own determination. For years I financially supported my family through every crisis, paying for everything from their mortgage to medical bills. Then one night my father looked me straight in the eyes and called me uneducated trash. "Get out, you lowlife," he yelled in front of everyone. So I did exactly that. I moved to my beach house in Florida, without a word. If you have ever had family turn on you after everything you have done for them, please hit that like button and subscribe. Let me know in the comments where you are watching from. This story might help you realize your true worth. I grew up in a working-class neighborhood in Cleveland, Ohio. Our house was modest, but kept in good repair, nestled among similar homes filled with families who believed in working hard and playing by the rules. My parents, Thomas and Eleanor, were deeply traditional people who placed enormous value on conventional education and established career paths. They had very specific ideas about what success should look like. My father worked as a high school math teacher for 30 years. He took immense pride in his reputation for academic rigor and discipline. Students feared his class, but many later thanked him for pushing them toward college. My mother served as a hospital administrator, managing schedules and budgets with meticulous attention to detail. Together they represented stability and respectability in our community. My brother James was 4 years older and the undisputed golden child of our family. He followed every step of my parents' prescribed path without question. Perfect grades, class president scholarship to a prestigious university, followed by an accounting degree. Each achievement earned approving nods at dinner, and framed certificates displayed prominently in our living room. The template for success was clearly established through his example. I was different from the beginning, though not in rebellious ways. While I maintained decent grades, my mind constantly wandered to business possibilities. At 12, I organized a neighborhood service network, connecting elderly residents with teens willing to handle yard work and errands. By 14, I was designing and selling handcrafted jewelry to local boutiques. During high school, I created a successful babysitting coordination service that matched sitters with families based on specific needs and personalities. These ventures earned me spending money and valuable experience, but my parents consistently dismissed them as cute temporary diversions. "These little businesses are fine for now, Amanda," my mother would say during dinner, "but education is what truly matters for your future." My father would nod in agreement, adding, "You need credentials to be taken seriously in this world." Despite their skepticism, I earned a partial scholarship to our state university. I selected business administration as my major, hoping to gain knowledge that would support my entrepreneurial ambitions. College was fine, but I often felt constrained by theoretical approaches to business problems I had already encountered in practical ways. While professors lectured about hypothetical scenarios, I found myself sketching ideas for real-world applications. During my sophomore year, I began developing a truly innovative app concept. The platform would connect local service providers with consumers in revolutionary ways, incorporating features no existing app offered. The potential seemed enormous, but executing the vision required full-time commitment. After months of research and planning, I made the difficult decision to drop out during my junior year to pursue this business opportunity. My father's reaction to this news was explosive. He paced our kitchen, face flushed with anger. "You are throwing your entire future away on some ridiculous internet fantasy." His voice crescendoed with each word. My mother sat silently, disappointment etched across her features, occasionally murmuring about how hard they had worked to provide me with opportunities. That same week I moved into a tiny apartment with my roommate Audrey, who worked as a graphic designer. Our place was barely 600 square feet with mismatched furniture and questionable plumbing, but the rent was manageable. I took a retail job at a nearby clothing store, working daytime hours, while coding late into each night. My routine became mechanical work, code, sleep, for 4 hours repeat. Living on such a minimal budget meant sacrificing nearly everything beyond absolute necessities. I ate the same inexpensive meals, repeatedly abandoned any social life, and tracked every dollar with obsessive precision. Each sacrifice felt worthwhile, as the prototype for my app slowly took shape. When I finally had a functioning version to demonstrate, my heart swelled with genuine pride. This creation represented thousands of hours of determination. I made the mistake of sharing this milestone with my family during our monthly dinner. My father glanced at the interface with obvious disinterest while my mother asked when I planned to return to school. James, home for the weekend from his new accounting position, examined it briefly before launching into a story about his recent promotion. My achievement evaporated into the air without acknowledgement. That Thanksgiving remains particularly vivid in my memory. Extended family gathered around our expanded dining table, sharing updates and achievements. When conversation turned to my situation, my father answered before I could speak. Amanda is taking a break from college to work on some computer project. His tone conveyed both dismissal and embarrassment. Minutes later, he beamed, while announcing James' upcoming certification exams, describing each detail with animated pride. Later that evening, my Aunt Patricia asked about my app directly. As I began explaining the concept, my father interrupted. "We are hoping this phase passes soon so she can get back to finishing what she started." My mother nodded in agreement, adding, "Sometimes the long road is the right one, dear." Their words stung, but something hardened inside me that night. Their approval had always been conditional, contingent upon following their narrowly defined path. If conventional routes were the only ones they could recognize, they would never appreciate the journey I had chosen. Rather than discouraging me, their dismissal fueled a deeper determination to succeed beyond any standard they could imagine. My first real breakthrough came 6 months after dropping out. Through a connection from Audrey, I secured a meeting with Rebecca, an angel investor known for supporting innovative startups. I spent weeks refining my presentation, rehearsing answers to potential questions, and polishing every aspect of my prototype. The night before our meeting, anxiety kept me awake until dawn, my mind cycling through all possible ways I might fail. The pitch meeting itself passed in a blur of nervous energy. I explained my vision, demonstrated the platform, and outlined growth projections with shaking hands but clear conviction. When Rebecca asked pointed questions about market differentiation and scalability, I answered with unexpected confidence born from countless hours of preparation. 2 days later, her office called with stunning news. She wanted to invest $50,000 for a small equity stake. That first investment allowed me to rent a small office space in an aging industrial building downtown. The concrete floors were stained, the windows drafty, and the elevator frequently inoperable, but it represented legitimacy I had craved. I purchased essential equipment and immediately began searching for my first employee. After interviewing dozens of candidates, I found Samantha, a brilliant programmer whose traditional job prospects were limited by her lack of formal education. Like me, her talent exceeded her credentials. Together, we refined the platform's unique selling proposition, revolutionizing how local service providers connected with consumers through an innovative verification system, real-time availability tracking, and transparent pricing models that existing apps lacked. Our approach eliminated common frustrations from both sides of the marketplace, creating genuine value where competitors offered mere convenience. Our first major client came through persistent outreach. A regional chain of boutiques took a chance on our platform, integrating their inventory and appointment scheduling systems. Their cautious decision became our opportunity to prove our concept worked in real conditions. Ensuring their success meant 18-hour workdays manually troubleshooting issues and implementing improvements overnight. The exhaustion was profound but purposeful. I still remember our first month of actual profit. The amount was modest, just enough to cover basic expenses, with a tiny margin remaining. But the psychological impact was immense. Samantha and I celebrated with takeout pizza and inexpensive wine in our sparse office, plotting growth strategies on whiteboards until midnight. That small financial milestone validated every sacrifice. When our app downloads reached 100,000 users, industry publications began taking notice. A respected tech blogger featured our unique approach, highlighting the verification system that differentiated us from competitors. The resulting attention brought inquiries from larger investment firms interested in our growth potential. Each conversation expanded my vision of what might be possible. During this period of initial success, I continued attending monthly family dinners, hoping progress might finally earn their recognition. One Sunday, after a local business journal had featured our company, my father offered what he considered high praise. "At least you are keeping busy while figuring out your next steps." My mother added, "Maybe this experience will look good on applications when you decide to finish your degree." James, now firmly established in his accounting career, asked detailed questions about our business model and revenue projections. His interest seemed genuine until he concluded, "Sounds like you got lucky with good timing. Have you considered bringing in someone with an MBA to handle the business aspects properly?" The qualified dismissal in his tone was unmistakable. Despite their continued skepticism, our growth accelerated beyond my original projections. After 18 months of operation, a second round of funding confirmed our company valuation at $1 million. This milestone allowed expansion to a team of 10 dedicated employees, each bringing specialized skills to our evolving platform. We moved from our industrial space to legitimate offices in the business district, complete with proper meeting rooms and reliable infrastructure. A major tech blog feature catapulted our user base into exponential growth territory. Downloads increased by 300% in a single month, straining our servers and requiring emergency scaling solutions. Each technical challenge demanded innovative responses from our growing team. The pressure was intense, but exhilarating, as we navigated uncharted territory together. Throughout this period of expansion, I maintained a modest personal lifestyle, reinvesting profits and living in the same small apartment. Each milestone reached represented progress toward proving my vision viable, not just to investors or users, but perhaps someday to my family as well. Despite mounting evidence of success, I continued hoping that enough achievement might finally earn their approval. The second major funding round brought substantial changes to both our business and my personal financial situation. With company valuation reaching $5 million, my equity stake translated into significant personal wealth, at least on paper. While I maintained my focus on long-term growth rather than immediate gratification, this new financial reality opened unexpected possibilities. Around this time, I learned through a family friend named Linda that my parents were facing a serious mortgage crisis. Years of modest salaries, combined with supporting James through college and unexpected home repairs, had created a perfect financial storm. They were 3 months behind on payments, with foreclosure becoming a real possibility. They had told no one in the family, maintaining their facade of careful stability. Without hesitation, I arranged to pay off their entire $320,000 mortgage anonymously through an attorney. The process was complex, but discreet, resulting in my parents receiving notice that their debt had been satisfied by an unnamed benefactor. For weeks they speculated about possible sources, considering distant relatives or even administrative errors. When they eventually discovered I was responsible through an accidental disclosure by the attorney's office, their reaction was not what I had imagined. "Thank you, of course," my father said stiffly during our next dinner. "But this kind of financial decision should involve careful consideration. You should be investing that lucky tech money, not spending it impulsively." My mother nodded in agreement, adding, "We would have managed somehow. We always have." Less than a year later, James called in genuine distress. Due to administrative changes, he had unexpectedly lost his graduate school financial aid package, with just 3 semesters remaining. The remaining $60,000 in tuition seemed insurmountable, potentially derailing his carefully planned career trajectory. Within hours, I had arranged payment for his remaining education costs, assuring him this was an investment in his future. His thanks came through a brief text message. "Got confirmation of payment. Appreciate it. We'll pay back eventually." At his graduation ceremony, my parents beamed with pride at his accomplishment, while he delivered a speech about perseverance and self-reliance. My contribution went unmentioned. When my mother experienced a sudden health crisis requiring specialized treatment, not covered by insurance, I immediately provided the $85,000 needed for the best available care. During her recovery, my father mentioned repeatedly how fortunate they were that the money had become available, as though it had materialized through general good fortune rather than my specific intervention. For their 35th anniversary, I noticed my father's beloved classic car had finally broken down beyond reasonable repair. He had purchased it in his 20s, maintaining it meticulously for decades, until parts became impossible to source. Seeing his quiet disappointment each time he passed the garage, I arranged delivery of a new luxury vehicle of the same make updated with modern features, but resembling his cherished original. When they saw it in their driveway, complete with commemorative license plate, my mother whispered, "This is excessive," while my father inspected it with obvious admiration. Eventually he looked up and offered, "At least you are spending money on something worthwhile, instead of just frivolous things." The comment stung despite the partial approval it contained. During a large family gathering that summer, I overheard my parents describing my business success to relatives with apparent pride. "My company is really taking off," my mother told my Aunt Margaret. Amanda always had entrepreneurial tendencies. I felt a momentary glow of satisfaction until my father added, once they thought I was out of earshot, "Of course she got in at the right time with these apps. Mostly luck and timing. Not like building a career through education and credentials like James did." This pattern created growing internal conflict. Each act of generosity was motivated by genuine desire to help my family, yet each response reinforced that financial support could never translate into the respect I craved. My therapist Diane suggested establishing healthier boundaries, pointing out the unhealthy dynamic my financial assistance was inadvertently reinforcing. "I understand they are your family," she noted during one session, "but continuing to seek validation through financial means is preventing authentic relationships from developing. Have you considered what boundaries might look like?" Despite recognizing the wisdom in her advice, I found myself unable to implement meaningful boundaries. Each family need represented another opportunity to demonstrate my value, another chance to finally earn the approval that remained stubbornly elusive. The rational understanding that this pattern was unhealthy competed with emotional programming established throughout my childhood. As our 5th year of operation approached, the business entered a phase of dramatic expansion. We opened additional offices in Chicago, Seattle, and Atlanta, establishing physical presence in key markets nationwide. Our staff grew to 175 employees across these locations, each office developing its own culture while maintaining our core mission and values. A major professional milestone arrived with my inclusion in Forbes' 30 Under 40 list, which featured an extensive profile of our company's innovative approach and rapid growth. The article highlighted our unique position in the marketplace and my unconventional path to success. When the issue hit newsstands, I nervously sent copies to my family, hoping this external validation might finally resonate. Our active user base exceeded 12 million people, with engagement metrics consistently outperforming industry standards. Multiple tech giants approached with acquisition offers, some reaching 9 figures, but I declined each one. The platform remained independent, allowing us to maintain our original vision without corporate compromise. This decision preserved our unique market position while increasing our valuation to a confirmed $22 million. Television appearances on national business programs became regular occurrences, along with speaking invitations at prestigious industry conferences. Standing on stages addressing thousands of industry professionals, I sometimes found myself mentally addressing my father in the imagined audience, still seeking the acknowledgement he had withheld throughout my journey. Despite my growing wealth, I purchased only a modest home in an upscale neighborhood. The four-bedroom house offered comfortable space without ostentation, reflecting my continued focus on long-term stability rather than conspicuous consumption. My parents visited only once, my father commenting that the property taxes in such an area seemed wasteful, while my mother suggested different furniture arrangements that would make better use of the space. I continued providing substantial financial support, funding a complete renovation of my parents' home when structural issues were discovered. From foundation repairs to a new kitchen and updated bathrooms, the project transformed their living space entirely. When completed, my mother hosted a neighborhood open house to showcase the improvements, describing them to visitors as a much-needed update we had been planning for years. When James decided to pursue an expensive graduate business degree to advance his career, I covered the entire cost without hesitation. The program required temporary relocation to another state, so I also provided funds for comfortable housing during his studies. His occasional text messages acknowledged receipt of tuition payments but rarely included personal updates about his progress. A complex dynamic emerged during this period. My parents increasingly mentioned my business success when introducing me to their friends, seemingly proud of the association. "Your daughter is quite the entrepreneur," people would comment, and they would nod appreciatively. Yet in private conversations their criticism continued unabated. "You work too much," my mother would observe during phone calls. "When are you going to find balance in your life?" The tension culminated during a Christmas dinner in my parents' newly renovated dining room. As James described his graduate program in detail, my father raised his glass in a toast. "This is what real education looks like," he announced to the table. "Methodical, credential-based, and respected everywhere. Some lucky breaks in business are fine, but nothing replaces proper academic foundations." Later my mother pulled me aside while I was helping with dishes. "Have you thought about using some of your money to get proper credentials?" she asked quietly. "Maybe finish your degree or get an MBA. It would legitimize everything you've accomplished." James brought his new fiancée Catherine to Easter dinner that spring. During appetizers, she leaned forward with seemingly genuine interest. "Your business sounds fascinating, Amanda. What a fortunate set of circumstances that led to such success without requiring the educational investment most of us need." Her phrasing was perfectly calibrated to minimize achievement, while emphasizing luck, echoing my family's perspective with remarkable precision. With each interaction, a deepening realization settled into my consciousness. No level of success would ever bridge the fundamental disconnect between my family's values and my own path. The metrics by which they measured worth remained rooted in traditional credentials I had deliberately bypassed. My achievements existed in a category they fundamentally could not or would not validate. For the first time, I seriously considered creating permanent distance. The emotional toll of continuously seeking approval from people fundamentally incapable of providing it was becoming physically manifest. Persistent headaches, disrupted sleep patterns, and constant tension in my shoulders all testified to the unsustainable nature of our relationship. Yet completely severing ties felt equally impossible, despite everything they were, my family. The programming that bound me to their approval ran deep, entangled with my sense of identity in ways I was only beginning to recognize. The possibility that this fundamental conflict might never resolve hung over me with increasing weight. My father's 60th birthday celebration marked a turning point none of us could have anticipated. My parents had planned an elaborate gathering at their renovated home, inviting extended family and colleagues from throughout my father's teaching career. I arrived early to help with final arrangements, having already sent a premium gift, a rare collector's watch my father had once mentioned, admiring. When he opened my carefully selected present, he glanced at it briefly before placing it aside with minimal acknowledgement. Just minutes later, James presented a framed certificate showing a star had been named after our father. The symbolic gesture, costing perhaps $50, received effusive gratitude and immediate placement on the mantel for all guests to admire. The contrast stung, but I had grown accustomed to such disparities. What I wasn't prepared for came during dinner when James and his wife Catherine announced they were expecting their first child. The news transformed the gathering instantly, with my parents reacting with unprecedented emotion. My father actually wiped away tears while embracing James, whispering loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. Finally, our family values continuing properly to the next generation. The comment carried unmistakable subtext, reinforced by my mother's glance in my direction, before returning her attention to Catherine with questions about due dates and nursery plans. The implication was clear: James was fulfilling family expectations completely, while my own life remained somehow deficient despite my achievements. Later in the evening, my father stood to deliver a speech, thanking everyone for celebrating this milestone birthday. He spoke warmly about his teaching career, his marriage, and his pride in the family legacy. He specifically mentioned James following in his footsteps through academic achievement and now impending fatherhood. Throughout the extended remarks, he made no reference to my contributions to family prosperity or the business success that had received national recognition. The deliberate omission crystallized years of accumulated hurt. After guests began departing, I approached his study, where he was showing his university memorabilia to remaining colleagues. I asked if we could speak privately for a moment, and the others tactfully excused themselves. "Dad," I began carefully, "I noticed you didn't mention anything about my work or contributions to the family during your speech. It hurt to be excluded like that after everything." He had been drinking steadily throughout the evening, and his response came with unexpected intensity. "Why would I mention your little internet business during an important family moment?" he demanded, voice rising. "You think because you got lucky with internet money, you deserve special recognition?" His words stunned me into momentary silence, which he filled immediately. "You dropped out of college, abandoned the education we sacrificed to provide, and now expect respect because you stumbled into some tech trend at the right moment. Do you know how embarrassing it is when my colleagues ask about my daughter's credentials, and I have nothing to tell them?" My mother appeared in the doorway, clearly having overheard his raised voice. Rather than intervening, she stood silently, her expression unreadable. "Dad, I paid off your mortgage," I whispered, still struggling to process his outburst. "I funded your renovation, bought your car, paid for Mom's medical treatment, covered James' education." That only provoked greater anger. "So now you think you can buy respect from this family?" he shouted, face flushed. "You're nothing but uneducated trash who stumbled into cash. Money doesn't make you accomplished." James stepped into the doorway beside our mother, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Dad, maybe we should continue this another time," he suggested, though he made no attempt to defend me or acknowledge the truth of my contributions. My father pointed toward the front door, his hand shaking with rage. "Get out of my house, you lowlife. Your money doesn't make you family." The hallway had gone silent, making it clear that several remaining guests had overheard the exchange. I maintained a composed exterior through sheer determination, nodded once, and walked calmly through the house to my car. Only when I was driving away did the tears begin blurring the familiar streets of my childhood neighborhood. At home, I sat in my darkened living room until nearly dawn, replaying not just the evening's events, but the entire pattern of our relationship throughout my life. The painful epiphany arrived with morning light. I had been seeking approval from people fundamentally incapable of providing it. No achievement, no financial success, no generosity would ever bridge the gap between their rigid definitions of worth and the path I had chosen. That realization brought both anguish and strange liberation. If approval was genuinely impossible to attain, perhaps I could finally stop structuring my life around its pursuit. Around 2 a.m, I found myself browsing real estate listings, eventually discovering a beachfront property in Naples, Florida. The elegant home featured panoramic ocean views, private beach access, and substantial distance from Cleveland, Ohio. Without allowing myself time for second thoughts, I submitted a full cash offer through the website's contact form. The impulsive decision felt simultaneously reckless and perfectly right. As I finally fell asleep, as dawn approached, I was struck by the hollow irony of my situation. I had achieved every conventional metric of success, except the only one that had ever truly mattered to me: my family's unconditional acceptance. The closing process for the Florida property proceeded with surprising efficiency. My all-cash offer eliminated financing contingencies, and the motivated sellers agreed to an expedited timeline. Within 3 weeks, I held keys to my new beachfront home, a property I had purchased without ever seeing it in person, beyond virtual tours. I chose not to inform my family about my relocation plans. After the birthday confrontation, communication had ceased entirely from both sides. I received no apology, no acknowledgement of the cruel words spoken, and made no effort to initiate reconciliation. The silence itself became a kind of boundary one I found myself unwilling to break. Packing my belongings became an unexpectedly cathartic experience. I donated most of my furniture and accumulated possessions, keeping only items with genuine personal significance. The process of deliberate reduction felt symbolic, shedding physical reminders of a life built around seeking external validation. The cross-country drive provided valuable thinking time. Watching the landscape transform from Ohio's industrial towns to Florida's tropical coastline mirrored my internal journey. Each mile created physical distance that somehow enabled emotional perspective. By the time I arrived in Naples, something had shifted fundamentally in my understanding of family obligation and personal worth. My first glimpse of the property in person took my breath away. The elegant contemporary home stood on elevated ground facing the Gulf of Mexico, with floor-to-ceiling windows capturing panoramic ocean views. A private walkway led directly to white sand beaches, while mature palm trees provided natural privacy barriers. The space felt both luxurious and peaceful in ways my previous residences never had. That first morning, I woke before dawn and carried a cup of coffee to the expansive deck. Watching sunrise colors transform the horizon, I experienced a moment of clarity unlike any before. This place represented not just escape, but possibility, a chance to define success according to metrics I chose myself, rather than inherited standards I could never satisfy. Establishing sophisticated remote work arrangements allowed me to maintain leadership of my company while beginning this new chapter. Our executive team had already been conducting virtual meetings due to multiple office locations, so my geographic change required minimal operational adjustments. Their unanimous support for my personal transition reflected the healthy organizational culture we had built together. Exploring the vibrant Naples community introduced me to people who knew nothing about my background or family dynamics. Conversations began from neutral starting points, without preconceived judgments or long-established patterns. This refreshing dynamic allowed authentic connections based on present interactions rather than historical roles. The owner of a local beachside cafe named Jessica became my first genuine friend in Florida. Her warmth and direct communication style created immediate comfort, and our morning conversations gradually evolved from casual pleasantries to meaningful exchanges. She had experienced her own family estrangement years earlier, providing understanding without requiring detailed explanations. Joining an exclusive beach yoga group introduced both physical relaxation and social connections. The daily practice helped release tension. It carried so long it had become normalized, while the diverse group members shared common values despite varied backgrounds. For the first time, I built relationships entirely separate from family expectations or business achievements. During those initial weeks, missed calls and messages accumulated from family members. My mother sent increasingly concerned texts, while James left voicemails about helping with wedding expenses. My father remained silent, but family friends reported he had asked about my whereabouts. None of these communications acknowledged the confrontation or offered apologies, focusing instead on practical matters and implicit expectations of continued financial support. Implementing deliberate communication boundaries proved surprisingly empowering. Rather than responding immediately as I once would have, I allowed myself time to consider whether engagement served my well-being. Some messages received delayed, measured responses, while others warranted none at all. This selective engagement represented unprecedented self-permission to prioritize my needs. My home office overlooking the Gulf of Mexico became a space of renewed creativity and purpose. The constant presence of horizon and ocean reminded me daily that possibilities extended beyond previously imagined limitations. Workspace design incorporated elements supporting both productivity and personal comfort, including artwork I genuinely loved rather than impressive pieces selected to convey success to visitors. After my first full week in Naples, I recognized an unfamiliar emotional state: genuine peace. The constant background anxiety of seeking approval had diminished, revealing how profoundly it had affected daily existence. Simple activities occurred without mental calculation of how they might be perceived or whether they aligned with family expectations. This newfound tranquility was temporarily interrupted by an unexpected panic attack while dining alone at an upscale restaurant. Without obvious trigger, overwhelming anxiety suddenly constricted my breathing and accelerated my heart rate. The episode served as powerful reminder that healing required time, that intellectual understanding of unhealthy patterns didn't immediately resolve emotional programming established over decades. Finding specialized therapist Caroline, who understood family trauma, specifically provided crucial support during this transition. Her experienced guidance helped identify unconscious beliefs still influencing my decisions, despite conscious rejection of their premises. Our weekly sessions created structured space for processing complex emotions around family estrangement and identity reclamation. The gradual process of rebuilding identity separate from family validation involved questioning fundamental assumptions about success, obligation, and personal worth. Each examined belief required conscious decision about whether it served my authentic self or represented inherited values I no longer chose to embrace. This deliberate reconstruction created foundation for genuine independence beyond geographic relocation. Redefining personal metrics for success beyond achievement or wealth introduced entirely new questions into my decision-making. Rather than asking whether choices would earn approval or demonstrate value, I began considering whether they aligned with my own principles and contributed to meaningful fulfillment. This shift represented fundamental reorientation of my internal compass. Perhaps the most significant milestone came unexpectedly during an ordinary afternoon. Walking along the shoreline collecting shells, I suddenly realized I hadn't thought about family approval all day. The absence of that constant consideration created space for genuine presence, allowing full engagement with current experience rather than evaluation through external perspectives. That simple moment of freedom marked genuine progress in my healing journey. Exactly 3 weeks after relocating to Florida, my phone displayed my father's name for the first time since his birthday. The unexpected contact triggered immediate physical response tension, returning to shoulders that had finally begun relaxing into my new environment. After several deep breaths, I answered with neutral greeting. "Amanda," he began without preamble, "James is finalizing wedding arrangements and needs additional funds for the venue deposit." His tone carried absolute expectation, as though our last interaction had never occurred. The complete absence of acknowledgement regarding his previous behavior stunned me momentarily. When I didn't immediately respond, he continued with slight impatience. "The amount is substantial, around $30,000. They found a historic estate that requires full payment up front. I told him you would handle it, given your financial situation." In that moment, the pattern crystallized with perfect clarity. My value to the family had been reduced entirely to financial utility, with relationship maintained solely for practical benefit, rather than genuine connection. The realization brought surprising calm rather than fresh hurt. "I'm afraid that won't be possible," I replied, voice steady and measured. "I need to establish some boundaries around financial support going forward. I wish James and Catherine happiness in their marriage and life together, but I won't be contributing to wedding expenses." The silence extended so long I wondered if the connection had been lost. When my father finally spoke, his voice carried unfamiliar uncertainty. "What do you mean, boundaries? This is your brother we're talking about." "I mean that I've provided substantial financial support to this family for years while receiving ongoing criticism and dismissal in return," I explained calmly. "The last time we spoke you called me uneducated trash and a lowlife before throwing me out of your house. I'm no longer willing to fund family events while being treated with such fundamental disrespect." His response cycled predictably through familiar patterns: denial, minimization, and finally manipulation. "That was just birthday celebration stress talking," he insisted. "Family sometimes says things they don't mean. Your mother has been very worried about your sudden disappearance." I maintained calm resolve throughout this attempted emotional leverage. "Dad, I've moved to Florida to establish healthier patterns in my life. I'm not disappeared. I'm relocated. My boundaries around financial support remain firm. I'm happy to work toward more respectful relationship if that's something you're interested in, but that would need to begin with acknowledgement of past patterns." The conversation ended shortly afterward without resolution, but I experienced profound liberation in having maintained clear boundaries without guilt or justification. The calm certainty in my voice had surprised even me, reflecting internal shifts more significant than the geographic change. My mother reached out next, her approach more subtle but equally focused on circumventing boundaries rather than addressing fundamental relationship issues. Her messages alternated between expressions of concern about my well-being and specific mentions of financial needs facing various family members. Each attempted manipulation became easier to recognize and resist as my perspective clarified. As weeks in Naples became months, my involvement with local youth entrepreneurship foundation provided unexpected fulfillment. Mentoring young women with business aspirations allowed me to share knowledge and experience in an environment of genuine appreciation. Watching their confidence grow through practical guidance and encouragement provided satisfaction entirely different from corporate achievements. I developed authentic friendships with people who valued my journey, without requiring external validation of its worth. During dinner gathering at Jessica's beachfront home, sharing an abbreviated version of my family experience brought genuine empathy rather than judgment. Their supportive responses validated my decisions, while acknowledging the complexity of family estrangement. My business continued thriving under balanced leadership approach that no longer allowed work to define my worth. Maintaining appropriate involvement while developing interests beyond professional identity created sustainable relationship with career that had previously consumed my entire self-concept. This recalibration allowed genuine pride in accomplishments without desperate need for external recognition. The comprehensive healing journey involved multiple complementary approaches. Weekly therapy sessions provided structured processing space, while daily journaling captured insights and tracked progress through inevitable setbacks. Meditation practice developed greater awareness of automatic thoughts and emotional responses, creating crucial space between trigger and reaction. Rediscovering abandoned hobbies and passions beyond career brought unexpected joy to daily life. Painting lessons tapped creativity previously channeled exclusively into business innovation, while joining local sailing club introduced both new skills and community connections. These activities existed entirely separate from achievement metrics pursued for inherent enjoyment rather than demonstrable results. My first holiday season in Florida highlighted the profound transformation underway. Rather than returning to Cleveland for traditional family gathering, I hosted dinner for my chosen family of close friends. The celebration featured neither obligation nor performance, just genuine connection among people who appreciated each other authentically. The contrast with previous holiday experiences emphasized how dramatically my understanding of family had evolved. Thoughtful reflection during this period revealed complex emotional truth. I could simultaneously acknowledge the pain caused by my family, while appreciating formative experiences that shaped my resilience and determination. This nuanced perspective allowed integration of past experiences without remaining defined by them, incorporating lessons without carrying ongoing resentment. Occasional moments of sadness for family relationships that might have been became less frequent and less intense as months passed. These feelings represented natural grief process for lost possibilities rather than evidence of failure or weakness. Allowing this grief-appropriate space facilitated genuine healing rather than superficial resolution through denial or minimization. The stronger foundation of self-respect gradually replaced lifelong need for external validation. This shift manifested in everyday decisions, from business leadership to personal boundaries, with choices increasingly reflecting internal values rather than anticipated reactions from others. The cumulative effect created authentic life, aligned with genuine priorities rather than inherited expectations. My future plans expanded beyond previous imagination, encompassing both continued business innovation and personal growth in previously unexplored directions. Without constant energy drain of seeking impossible approval, creativity flourished in unexpected areas. Each new possibility reinforced fundamental truth that limiting beliefs, rather than external circumstances, had constrained my horizons. The profound life lesson emerging from this difficult journey became increasingly clear. True family consists of people who respect who you actually are, not just what you can provide. This understanding transformed my approach to all relationships, establishing authentic connection and mutual respect as non-negotiable foundations rather than aspirational ideals. Building genuinely rewarding life on these principles brought deepening satisfaction with each passing month. The peace that comes from living authentically on one's own terms provided stability no external validation could match. This hard-won wisdom continues guiding my decisions and relationships today. Have you ever had to create boundaries with family who only valued what you could provide for them? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more authentic conversations about family dynamics and personal growth. Share this with someone who might need to hear that their worth isn't determined by others' approval. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember that sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most beautiful new beginnings.